Greetings, listeners. This is Adair For this episode of the Local Global Leaders podcast, titled Uplift Someone Else, I spoke with Christian Adair, the executive director of the Lyric Theater and Cultural Arts Center here in Lexington, and the founder and director of Alpha League. We talked about mentoring marginalized students, servant leadership to support communities, and his work of empowering young Black and brown men. Christian is a renowned leader in the Commonwealth who has implemented dozens of education programs that have engaged hundreds of dedicated volunteers. It was a great conversation we had. He emphasized learning from the history that minority communities face here in the state. He talked about using experiences from teaching and coaching in his past, and he talked about building diverse partnerships to engage in leadership. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Greetings, everyone. This is Adair again with the Local Global Leaders podcast. And in the studio today, I'm really excited to have Christian Adair, a local leader here from Lexington, Kentucky. Going to be interviewing him today about leadership development. Christian, thank you so much for joining me today.
Appreciate you having me. I'm blessed that you even want to ask me questions and learn a little bit about leadership. So thank you.
Thank you. It's really excited and honored to have you, and really been a big fan of the work you've been leading here in Kentucky and Lexington in the creative arts space and leadership work. So just want to know about that. But first, like I said, I want to know who Christian Adair is and how you became a leader. So can you introduce yourself to our listeners? What do you want them to know about you right off the bat?
Well, so my leadership started a long time ago because I had a mentor that I didn't realize was called a mentor. His name was Dick Levins. He was a paranoid schizophrenic. Oh. He dug a hole underneath his house and would wear earplugs to get away from the spirit voices. And sometimes he would call me Pirate Lady and things like that. But this man was amazing. He paid me a penny a minute to work, no matter what kind of work it was, no matter where it was doing it. If he knew I was working, he gave me a penny a minute. He gave me $1 food stamp on Fridays. Wow. And he was pretty much thrown away from society, and the only white man in our neighborhood just about, and taught us gardening, taught us how to fix lawnmowers, but taught the value of the dollar, and he taught the love and giving, which is, when you serve others, it's the highest form of leadership. So mine starts with there, and of course goes into athletics. Just about everyone ends up being a part of some type of sport. And I ran track and played football and played basketball. And my coaches put me in position to be a leader because of my athletic ability. And naturally, when you're the best athlete, then people tend to watch and watch you and learn from you. And then because you know they're expecting to follow you, you tend to pay more attention to what it is that decisions you're making. So that contribute to me being a servant leader. And of course, people throughout my entire life, the organizations I've joined, and the biggest influence who has taught me by far the most out of everyone has been my kids. And when they were born, first time I think I remember crying, and I didn't realize that they was coming here to get daddy in shape and put him in a space that, hey, this world is your ego. Get your ego in check, Papa, because a lot more things got to go on around. So that's a little bit about, I guess, the history of who I am presently. I was a teacher and a track coach. Won several state championships. Had a lot of individual championships on my track teams. From Woodford County, Western Hills, and Frankfort, and then Bryan Station. Lots of track records. So I've been blessed with being with some winning people, winning kids, and winning coaches. And again, that's leadership. And as a teacher, as an educator, trying to fulfill or to remove barriers, provide opportunities for students who need it the most has been my calling as a special ed teacher. And eventually going to the diversity office at Fayette County Public Schools, where I led several initiatives, one being mentoring programs, the other being a real read program, a reading mentoring program. And I recently resigned from the school district to take on being the executive director at the Lyric Theater and Cultural Arts Center, which is an advocate for the entire community. We do it through the arts and do it through programming and providing opportunities and access for the entire community, which is, I think, has been my calling, because I think it's prepared me for this position I'm in now.
That's awesome. Yeah, really, I'm always grateful to hear when I hear about teachers being leaders. I'm a former teacher myself, so I think that classroom experience is really valuable.
Yes, it is.
I really appreciate it highlighting, student activities like, athletes. You mentioned athlete. Being an athlete is a first early exposure for a lot of young people into being a leader. I myself, I think you can call me an athlete. I did chess team quiz bowl in high school, so I consider those sports. But
Hey, you're competing, right? It's
yeah,
competitive event.
yeah.
So yeah,
We had some tough chess matches. I would sweat sometimes.
yeah.
But yeah, I really appreciate hearing that. Can you tell us more about your current role as the executive director of the Lyric Theater?
Well, at the Lyric Theater, the historic Lyric Theater and Cultural Arts Center, we are very unique. We are a nonprofit, an institution of diversity, inclusion, inspiration. We have a community engagement space where people from the community can rent to have their events, whether it be a wedding or just a meeting or a family reunion, or banks or organizations wanting to provide information to others. Lots of nonprofits come in and just create something to help the community. So they use that community space. We have an art gallery, which is amazing. We provide a platform for artists to showcase their art and possibly sell. We have an art director, Charles Rice, who actually help artists understand how to put value on their art. Then we have the museum that is focused on African American museum experiences, which is unique because we are unapologetically wanting the community to come in and learn more about the truth in education. If anybody's aware of what's going on out here in this community now, it's like almost a rollback of telling the truth through history, and a lot of history is being removed. To go a little bit deeper, the black community turned our kids over to the white community during, integration when Thurgood Marshall won Brown versus Board of Education. We turned our kids over to a culture that didn't want us, didn't love us, didn't like us, and that's been going on for the last since the 50s, since 1958, I believe. Where and we expect these teachers, 92% of them being white female, we expect them to want to show love, compassion, and teach truth in education. And a lot of times they don't know it, and they're teaching how they were taught. And a lot of information gets misconstrued, and when sometimes not sharing information is just as harmful. I've seen. So my whole point, not to go too deep into that space, but my whole point of the Lyric has an opportunity. We can fill that gap. We can't always, and this is the whole society, we can't always point at somebody to do it for us. We thought that our African American kids, our black kids, would go to school and would learn and would be loved. Not to the extent as their counterparts. But whose fault is that? And with a place like the Lyric Theater and Cultural Arts Center, we have a space. And it's actually being renovated right now. That's going to be truth-telling. And we want every nationality, every grandparent, every age group to come through and learn some truth about black history, hear the stories, hear the community record their voices and share what they've experienced. And when you do that, you gain a level of empathy. You gain a level of knowledge, and it's more love to go around. And that's what we're about. Oh, I did forget the biggest piece, didn't I? The auditorium. Wow. The auditorium, the historic auditorium. We were part of the Chitlin Circuit. It was the only space in Lexington that allowed black people to go watch movies, to be entertained, and to get entertained, to be entertainers, that is. So we've had famous artists coming through during the Chitlin Circuit time frame, from Count Basie to James Brown to B.B. King and Tina Turner, and we can go on. And probably we have a lot that came through that we don't have a footprint on because we didn't do flyers and selfies like they did, like we do now. But they would come here, and the Chitlin Circuit was safe places for black people to go throughout the South to perform. And the Lyric Theater was on that map. Okay. And so they were sure to come and perform and inspire, and it left great memories for that entire community. And again, only black people could go there to watch it, during segregation. And to find out, black people were totally okay with that. Mm-hmm. They were totally fine because they got to be who they wanted to be. They got to show their culture and laugh and sing and dance. And then it closed down for 48 years. It was dilapidated, boarded up. For 48 years, 58 years, 48 years, the East End community had to walk by a boarded up building that was an eyesore. And they had to keep sharing memories. Like, I remember when I went in there. I remember when Mama dropped me off. I remember I'd go get a quarter and get a bag of popcorn and watch 3 movies all day, watch their cartoons. But they had these memories, and it was actually hurting. It was hurt people's feelings to have to say, well, I remember when this street was live and thriving. And then so they got together and they protested, and they pushed their local politicians and local leaders to get them doors reopened. Let's open these doors again. This is a beautiful building. It's a historic neighborhood. And when they got it open with grants and funding and policies and things like that to change, they wanted it open for everybody. And to this day, you have one of the most diverse, inclusive, and inspirational facilities in Lexington and maybe the region, and we can possibly even compare ourselves throughout the whole country. Mm-hmm. The type of events that go on in there, the different communities that feel at home the minute they walk into the Lyric is amazing. They smile, they love, they hug, and they leave with a great celebration. They knew that they belonged there the minute they walked in, because we have no special initiatives. Our special initiatives say, hey, you belong when you come. Come do your event, come do your show, come share your culture, and let's enjoy the evening. And that community there, which is a majority black community, was able to get together and open them doors, and everyone enjoys. Wood Songs goes every Monday, and that is a baby boomer generation of older white America that enjoys the Lyric Theater every Monday. So everyone has something to do there.
Yeah, that's an amazing history here, because I've been to the Lyric Theater and had seen so many great events there, but I didn't realize that full historical context of the work around there. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it, we're storytelling as a people. I'm African American, just in case the listeners didn't know. We're storytellers, and if I stand outside long enough, somebody's going to come tell me a story. And those stories are pretty consistent on the emotions and the feelings they have towards that building and what went on there at one time. It was thriving. It was a point of light, and we want to get back to that, being that point of light for the country. We're going to fill a gap on education. Again, we don't have to turn our kids over to people that don't want to teach the truth. Mm-hmm. It's up to us to do it. And I'm blessed to be in that space because I am a history teacher. And so, yeah.
That's awesome. And that's so much great work you do with the Lyric Theater. I also know that, you're the founder and director of an organization called Alpha League. Can you tell us about that and the leadership work with that?
Alpha League is my baby. It has been one of the most fruitful organizations, things I've done. It has lifted me up. It has empowered me. As I coached track and field, it was exciting and we were winning, but I wanted to find something that I felt would be impactful, not just in athletics, that would actually uplift and remove barriers for our boys of color who are often most marginalized, left out, dismissed, and treated. This justice system and this society has treated the worst. And those are all data. People can't really argue the data, but if you look at data within schools and even out, that group of young men, Hispanic and black men, boys, needed something. So I created an organization called Alpha League. It's a mentor and leadership development group. Started in middle school. And we basically had 3 things we had to do. One was to serve the community, because serving your community is the highest form of leadership. And that would be get out the vote events, work with other organizations, teach other kids how to tie ties, be a part of performances where you're going to share out the qualities of a leader. That's one part of it. They had to learn the qualities of a leader. And the qualities of a leader came through studying black men in history, black men that have been the most influential and powerful people that have changed the world. So starting with somebody, we would analyze what qualities and what characteristics did Malcolm X have, Marcus Garvey, James Baldwin, Martin Luther King, of course, Thurgood Marshall, and we can go down the list of all these great advocates for the community, for the world, and what did they bring to the table? And when we did that, we had to analyze 15 characteristics that they seemed to have shared. And as we did this, students would write out what those characters, they would learn what these characters are, what these qualities meant, and then help apply it to themselves, or at least help teach others, because we go read books with elementary kids, and we did it through educational purpose. Anytime we can find something that community service through education, we did it. But these young men, most of them, not all of them, were single parent, low income homes. Some of them had behavior issues, and some of them were 4.0 and spoke 2 languages or 3 languages. Some were refugees from other countries already. Some were Spanish speaking and would actually have to speak on behalf of their families, so they were actually put in positions of being a leader in their homes already. But I had a very diverse group of boys. Most of them, again, didn't have access and opportunity as most of the kids that had access to money. A lot of people don't realize for every $1 a black household has, a white household has 7. So when you ask for $5, that's like no problem for some households. But when you only got $1 per, it becomes a big deal. And we wanted to make sure that this was free to our kids, and that we just doing labor of love. And I've leaned on my fraternity brothers, Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated, to assist me when I needed more men to come around and do some things for me. And but the program has thrived since 2012. I've mentored over 65 males since then, and several have gone on to college. Several are now members of my fraternity, which I never told them to do. Several of them have started their own organizations, and they're doing well. And anytime I need them to do something, they're there, willing to do whatever it is I'm asking. Another plug is a few years back when it was Bashir and Bevins was running against each other. We teamed up with Alpha Phi Alpha, and the boys in the group had 25 males in the Alpha League at that time. We walked to 2,500 houses and put door hangers on and knocked on the door in the north side of Lexington. And then we stood on the corners for 3 weeks in a row. On every corner from Winchester Road all the way to Russell Cave Road, we stood on the corners with signs saying vote. And these young men were ages from 12 to 15. None of them could vote, first of all. And we were doing this to get out the vote. And the highest increase in voter turnout was North Lexington. That area, that neighborhood, had the highest increase throughout the entire state. And Bashir won by 1%. Yeah. So the impact, if we didn't do that, but it showed the young men that you can impact society. And because it was important that they were, didn't have a personal relationship with Bashir. We wasn't getting the vote out for Bashir, but we did realize at the end of the day that some laws and regulations that was wanting to be put in by Bevins would have impacted our boys of color. And so that was their way of showing voice, and that was leadership, But yeah, Alpha League is probably giving me a platform to speak. I tell people all the time, it's not what you say, it's what you do. And I really don't have to say much about it. I say, look at the data, look at the photos, look at the pictures, and look who our kids are, look what these young men are, look what the ones that was in safe or suspended 45 times and now they're not at all. Look at the ones that had C's and now have all A's. Look at the ones that was not supposed to go to college and went to college. And it's also led me to now being a national speaker to different school districts on male engagement strategies. And I like to call it a MAP. We have a MAP plan, a mentoring action plan, telling the individual how they can contribute to something like Alpha League, telling the private sector how they can contribute with their money, and public sector how they can use their resources to all assist, because there's something for everyone, and we give them a list and a job to do. So when you got to figure it out, it's less likely to happen. But if I can give you a map and say, just do this 1 hour a month for 7 months, and it makes it much easier. And so we've created those programs, and it's helped.
That's amazing. It sounds like, like you talked about this earlier. you're really able to use your background as a history teacher, as a coach for, I mean, the work you do with the Lyric Theater, but it sounds like especially for the work you're doing, including these young men at Alpha League, right?
Yes. I'm constantly learning. And the people that I engage in, Obi Taylor has been very instrumental in helping me and to take Alpha League to another level. But every time I engage someone, I engage you today probably, and I learn something from you that can actually benefit someone else. I've been blessed to make connections, but people most of the time know that when you're giving a resource to me, Christian, right, it's going right back to our babies. It's going right back to the kids. It's going right back to our whatever we can provide to uplift someone else. And people are always wanting to help and support in some type of way. They just a lot of times don't know how to do it. And that's why we create the map. This is how you can help. So.
That's awesome. What are the biggest struggles you've encountered in your leadership journey with the work you're doing and also with the initiatives you're leading here in Kentucky?
Well, time, right? Time is always something that interferes a little bit. And of course, everybody's going to say money, the resources. When I want to get groups of kids somewhere, transportation is always the biggest issue. To be honest, who I'm advocating, so I advocate for a few. I advocate for boys of color. That has been, in itself, I'm picking out a group that society does not want to deal with, unless they're dealing with them in a negative connotation, a negative space. They don't really want to help them. And I notice because how hard it is to get people to help versus helping another organization that doesn't have specifically black and brown boys. Just speaking and saying I'm there for black and brown boys, people feel taken back like, well, then you must be against somebody else. Mm-hmm. Or why do they deserve it? There always has to be this justification on why they need it. If you're in this community, if you're in this society, you already know why they need support. But we haven't gotten a lot of money. Most of the money that it takes to do this has come out of my pocket. That's the truth. I have gotten grants. Partners for Youth has given us a grant. But when you have 25 boys and we get a $3,000 grant, that goes so far. My boys could eat $3,000 in 2 meals. I appreciate it because it did pay for a lot of Little Caesars pizzas when we have meetings, because you can't have the babies out here doing things, community service, and walking around neighborhoods and not feed them something. I've gotten grants and I've gotten private donations. We're able to buy suits for all of our kids, but it takes a lot of work. I'm not a grant writer. And if I had grants, if I had somebody that could just provide grants and I could focus on mentoring my guys, we would get a lot more done. So maybe as my guys grow older, and I call them guys, my mentees, as they get older, that they'll reach back and with their finances or their connections, and they are grant writers and really help us, because we have a lot more boys and we have to cut it off at some level. So we can do a lot more with a lot more resources, a lot more other individuals stepping in and helping. As far as advocating at the Lyric has been, we're a nonprofit and we do get support from the city to manage the facility. We have lots of partnerships. We haven't done any event or any programming without having a partner. We have the beautiful facility. A lot of times people have human content or human capital and bring content, and those have been the partners that have definitely helped us with a lot of the events and programming that we have been doing this past year. And we're not in silo. We work with just about anyone that has a positive outcome, that's wants to be uplifting to the community, and that's been a much better path versus Alpha League focus on just boys of color. We have a lot more work to do. 330,000 people here in Lexington needs to know we exist. Mm-hmm. Then they need to know what we provide. Then they need to know how they can utilize this facility to enhance a positive opportunity and message for the entire community. And it has been very enjoyable. Right now we have hairspray going on, right? Our summer program, we brought in 65 kids. There's about 10 kids from every high school, and these 10 kids are the actors, they're the dancers, they're the orchestra, they're learning how to do the lights, the sound, they built the staging, they're doing the costume design, they're doing the artwork that's going to go on the stage. All those kids have been in our building for the past several weeks preparing for this show. It is something that's never been done before as far as I know. I've asked around, but we're like the Juilliards right now. We're like Fame in Lexington because these kids are working hard. They're there from 8:30 to 5 o'clock every day, dancing and singing and going hard, creating lifelong relationships over the summertime. They're not at school. They're not in the streets. They're not doing other things. They are so focused on coming here. Half the students are male, other half is female, give or take one or two. Half black, half white, give one or two. A few Asian students that are doing artwork. But it's a very diverse, inclusive group. We have some amazing teachers from Fayette County that are providing the leadership and the direction. Michael Priestley from UK is teaching voice lessons. We have a couple professors from Transy that are helping build the stage, showing the kids how to do the staging. It has been a true community effort of doing this first time type of organization. And the plays come up this weekend. As a matter of fact, we have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And it's a true, and this is a stepping stone for what's going to happen. This is a true, and this is the biggest piece. None of the students had to pay money. This has been a free camp for them. We had to go get grants. We had to go get support. Kentucky Colonels helped us out. Lex Arts helped us out. But we had to go raise money to do these things for the kids because we did not want it to be a cost. Fayette County, of course, has provided a lot of resources, and this has been a true partnership. And we want to be an example for what we're asking others to do. Partner together in a good cause, uplift our babies, uplift our students, uplift our young adults, so they can go on and do great things, and then in turn they will give back. They will give back.
Yeah, it sounds like the biggest solution you've had to overcoming those leadership struggles was collaboration and that community engagement, right?
Yes, definitely. Collaboration is that and open to different ideas. Again, we had a facility, and we just want people that we don't want to talk about it. We want to do it.
In addition to those struggles, have you seen any examples or experiences with toxic leadership that have informed, the kind of leader you are today?
You can always learn from others' mistakes. You learn from their mistakes better than you can their successes. So I have been definitely in positions that's been toxic or being not quite what I feel it correlates with what I want to do. I'm trying to say these words nicely. Some people are in it for themselves. Some people are strictly just doing a job. Some people don't have passion, and some people love authority. So that's just across the gamut in every facet of what we do as a society. But and when that has happened, I've either had to remove myself or clarify myself, or even sometimes fight back. But I am again a black male in America. I am to a degree an outspoken person because I feel I'm an advocate. I'm on the Parks and Rec advisory. I was on the Human Rights Commission. I'm a member of Alpha Alpha fraternity. I'm on a Diversity Fest. I actually helped create the Diversity Fest through Leadership Lexington. And I'm on the MBE board and the Racial Justice Equality Commission. So I don't talk about it. I actually go to those tables and at least be at the tables to listen and share my ideas, at least try and influence to the best of my ability from the knowledge that I have. So you have to act, if you want to get things done, you have to actually be involved to some extent. You don't always have to be the leader, but you can influence a leader. And so I found that there are situations where it's best to not change the trajectory of that leader, and you go off and you create your own opportunity, your own avenue.
It's great to hear about all the different activities and community engagement opportunities you take advantage of. To, like you said, some of them you're a leader in, some of them you're more of a participant in it, but still get to lead in your own way, right?
Yes, I'm a partnerships. Uh, I view things as a piece of the puzzle all the time. I tell people we're all pieces of the puzzle. We're working on this, and this is my piece I'm bringing here, and this will not be complete unless I do my part, right? So, and I also need you to do your part, and need you to do your part. Um, I can go a little deeper on that. You know, we often invite people to the table after the table has been set, after the table has been built. And we invite them to the table and say, hey, we want you to come to the table to get your input. And people will come to the table and they're like, okay, I see this food, right? You're missing salt and pepper. Let's get salt and pepper. And, you know, and they're like, yeah, cool. Thank you for that. That's great advice because this is bland. This tastes. And then that person comes back to the table again and there's food there and it's a lot of food. And they're like, well, where's the salt and pepper? And somebody says, well, we were thinking about salt and pepper. We thought we would go with something different. But that was a great idea. So at that moment, you realize that you're there just to be at their table, to act like you're being involved. And then when you leave that table and you most likely like, hey guys, don't go join that table over there. They're not listening to us. They don't want real solutions. They have a lot of food. They built a table. They get to control what's going to be there. They don't want to take advantage. And so that also keeps a lot of people from even joining commissions and boards and things like that because the word is out. They're not listening to you anyway. You're wasting your time. I've asked them this. The concept now is like, you know, build your own table, set your table, and they can come to your table, but as long as you're going to their table, you're going to have to play by their rules. And a lot of times we see, I mean, this American experience, a lot of things have not changed. They may have masked, but as a real leader, as a true leader, you got to understand the places that you can lead and you can follow, and you can also start your own and build your own table and invite people to it. But it's just no one way of saying this is the best form of leadership. I know there's theories out there. I'm using servant leadership theory to help guide me because it's like the easiest one, you know, just to help people. I mean, what's better than that? That makes me a leader. No one can take that from me because I can actually show you where I help people. I'm a giver, and so that makes me a leader. And some people have the audacity, the ego to say I'm a leader, and only got to that position because it was handed to them by proximity. You know, that wife, the husband, the granddad, the money puts you in that position, and that's not really leadership. Just because you hold a title, you know, and that title was given to you anyway. So, I really view leadership as what you do, not what you say.
I appreciate mentioning servant leadership. You'd say that's your leadership style and philosophy, right?
Yes.
How would you what is your personal definition of servant leadership?
Well, so the highest form of leadership, I said earlier, is to be a servant, to serve your community. Because naturally, African American, black people, whatever you want to call us here in America, we've had an unjust history. So it's easy to find a lane to go in to find ways to counteract this injustice that we have, that we often face. And I kind of didn't realize there was a concept of a servant leader until I realized every time I'm leading something, it's because I'm serving others. It's something I'm advocating for others to do better, for others to gain a platform, for others to be inspired. And so when I want to define it, I'm like, I'm leading a way that's serving other people. How did I put myself in that front position? I just have the energy. I've had experience from being in other roles, and it makes me a leader because I'm willing to get out there and take verbal abuse back or to be pushed back on. I'm willing to sacrifice myself to say this is worth fighting for, and so that combination is kind of like who I am. Yeah.
And do you think, your leadership style, it helps you balance out the different roles of a leader? To me personally, I see leadership as involving three things: being a motivator, being a manager, and being a mentor. And you talked about mentorship. I see those as like, three overlapping roles for a leader, and sometimes someone can be good at one and not good at the others. Do you see those three things as part of your style as well?
Definitely, because I'm 51 years old. I've had experiences. So I'm a coach, right? I'm a track coach. I love track and field. I've taught others the exact workouts, right? All the coaches know about the workouts, the different energy systems and so forth. And there's distance workout and there's thrower workouts. And we all have the same kind of workouts. However, our kids don't perform at the same levels. So you have to find a way to motivate. You have to find a way to talk a kid and say, yes, you are the best. You deserve to be the champion. And the kids kind of taught me, how do I reach them? And when I learned how to reach them, I became a motivator. I motivate my Alpha League guys. I motivate those on my staff. I motivate, and you got to speak to people's strengths and accommodate weaknesses. And in doing that, you're able to motivate them. You're able to support them. A high five, a fist pump, a smile, a head nod are great motivators. So you just got to communicate with what the expectation is. Clarify what it is that you can do. And then you feed them. You feed them that knowledge. You feed them that moment. Like, you can be great. It doesn't cost me anything to cheer somebody on or to be a supporter, to do a high five. If I go by a classroom right now, do a head nod and a fist pump, that young gentleman is going to react. It's going to be like somebody's watching and somebody cares. At the end of the day, we all want to be acknowledged and we all want to have a voice. We want to be heard. And that's a form of motivating. And then you jump to being a mentor. Teachers are mentors. That's just what we have chose to do. I think the management style in the middle, man, managing people may be the hardest part of it, because everybody does have their own world. Everyone has their own agenda, and people have their own ideas. So you have to, when you're managing people, you have to figure out what it is that they really want to get out of it. What's their return on investment? What are their strengths and weaknesses? And you have to accommodate them sometime. But again, they want to be heard. They want to feel valued. And so you got to be on the same page, and that helps you manage them by giving them that voice, making sure they're valued, making sure they're heard. Well, again, not everyone has the same personality traits to work with each other, but when there's a goal and there's a clear goal and clear understanding of what needs to get done, and everybody's in agreement to that, you tend to come together because you're each piece of the puzzle. And I don't want to hire another Christian. I have Christian here. I don't need another me. I need somebody that thinks different than me, somebody different lens, because that's going to provide a better product. And that comes that diversity argument, diversity, equity, inclusion, all that kind of stuff. People don't realize by just bringing other lenses and other views and other experiences, you're going to get a better outcome and a better product or a better voice. It's just going to be better because now you're bringing in more inclusion that's going to get you just something better. If everybody thinks the same, you're going to lose out. Your product is going to be outdated. It's going to be, it's not going to be what it could have been. And that's the same way. So I hope I didn't change subjects in there, but managing people and the different styles and managing and motivating and mentoring is all part of it. If I was the smartest guy in the room every time, I would be in trouble. Whatever I'm doing, we would be in trouble. I cannot be the smartest guy and the smartest woman, and I can't be the smartest person in the space. I need people that can figure something out that I had no idea. I need their experiences. So just being a leader doesn't mean you're the smarter. It just means that you get smarter people around you, or at least you let people use their skills and their ideas to help you come with a solution for whatever it is.
That's a lot of great things to think about, a lot of great advice there. And I think that kind of jumps into my next question. And you kind of talked about this with your Alpha League work, but what advice do you have for people who hope to become leaders, in particular in the creative arts space like you, or people who want to start an organization?
So again, becoming a leader is not just saying it. You can't just say it. Create your own and put it on a calendar and do things every day to get to a goal that's going to demonstrate your ability to create, to make, or to lead. You have to be your own leader, first of all, before you can start leading other people. So it's funny. I was just talking to my wife about this. A lot of times you can't control yourself. I don't need to eat another donut. I don't need to do this or that. You can't control yourself. So how are you going to control somebody else? Accept that part of it. But you can influence. You can influence if you put the work in first. People will, if you're walking, people aren't going to go with you if you're going towards something. But if you're running and you're getting work done, people will start running with you. But they're not going to run in front of you. They're not going to walk beside you for your goal and for it is what you want to do as a leader. People will join you once you're doing the work, and it is lonely at first. But when there's outcomes, all of a sudden, oh, that's my guy. I knew he was going to be successful. Oh, that's my girl. Of course, she's had leadership her whole life. I'm joining her team. They're going to join you, and know that it's not going to be easy because there's always resistance. And don't be afraid to follow. But everybody has their own journey. Everybody has their own experiences. No one could probably follow my footsteps on where I'm at because I'm not even halfway to where I'm going anyway. But we all have our own journey. We all have our failures that's going to occur. Denzel Washington said it best, fall down 7, get up 8. When you don't get up, you'll never reach your potential. Then you have regrets, and you don't want to live with regrets.
Thank you. That's a lot of great leadership development advice. Now I want to ask about sort of the local global context of leadership. First, I want to ask, who are your leadership role models, particularly any local or global leaders you look up to?
Well, I'll start global. First of all, President Obama. I'm not even talking policy. I'm just saying the fact that this African American man had the audacity to want to lead a country and to go through the rigor and to learn and to fight to get to where he got to, the highest pinnacle, the most powerful position in the world. Just what did he have to go through every day? The comments and what people would do and the barriers, that, and the stress, of course. And then the only book I probably read from cover to cover was Malcolm X's autobiography of Malcolm X. So, and that's not just about what people should learn about Malcolm X before they start to think the advocacy part. Mm-hmm. It's about his journey of where he got to. The journey was very similar to mine as far as being biracial, being mentally abused by racist people and even your own family because of what you look like based on skin tone. And so national figures, but I can go on and go on about people that influence. James Baldwin is probably the most influencer as far as his quotes being so profound and so just as a matter of fact, learning from him. And then I have my personal board here locally. People I call my personal board, people I call to give me advice. And so a great friend, Obi Taylor, who has life experiences he shares because he always brings in what his father and his grandfather taught him. You have people like P.G. Peoples to not just sit and talk to, but you watch his actions and what he's been a part of and the community he's had to take on. Dr. Seals, who's been through the rigor of trying to change policy and laws. I look at people that actually got things done and even sacrificed themselves and possibly financial gain or things like that says, they're the real deal. And then, I usually respect a position more than like necessarily a person because we're all imperfect. But at the Lyric recently, we did a celebration for Juneteenth, and it was called The Past, the Present, and the Future. Well, the present, our local artist Charles Rice, he's a marketing director at Lyric Theater. He did portraits of 14 community leaders and 4 black judges, 4 of the black council members, state representative, chief of police, first fire chief. We chose, and we did miss out on one person that we should have called in, but we want to recognize the people that are doing things right now, that are presently doing their wildest dreams of our enslaved ancestors. When the enslaved ancestors were chained up, beaten, raped, families pulled apart, they couldn't even think that one day that their ancestors would actually be influencing law decisions in the community. And so we wanted to give them flowers while they're here. So we gave them portraits to say, we see you. We recognize that you probably had a hard journey getting to where you're at. And so it's important to recognize each other. And I forgot what even your question was, but I just know that, we have great people. Oh, I'm thinking about people right now that influence. All those people influence me, because I know that it's hard to be what they're doing. The superintendent, African American male, just on and on. Just being a person of culture. It's a battle every day. People don't realize the stress that comes with it, because we can't do certain things and we should do certain things, and we represent a whole culture. For positive, if an influential black person was to do something, all of a sudden he represents every culture, when it was really just that person that did that mistake or whatever it is. And so it's a huge pressure, and I appreciate all of them. And I can go to each one of them and ask questions, and they will be more than welcome to share their knowledge with me. So,
yeah, it's a lot of great role models to have. Do you have any fictional leadership role models? Characters or people from books or movies or pop culture you look up to as well?
Wakanda forever. I mean, that was a more powerful role than people realize. That because there's so much, and actually, there's a few characters in there. I would probably be more related not to the Black Panther. Just gonna put it that way. There's another character that was going after him that I would probably be more related to, being the youngest of 6, single black mother in Kansas, kind of abandoned by society, but wanting to just get to the truth and to get my rightful place where I deserve to be in this community, that I am worthy. I'm worthy, and I had to fight for mine. So, there's some fictional characters out there.
That's great to hear. Do you, I think you touched upon this earlier. Do you see yourself as a leader in a movement through the work you do?
I lead by example. I just spoke on Juneteenth, by uplifting and bringing those leaders to the forefront, and to get the community to recognize and see their faces. That in itself, yes. Am I a leader when it comes to mentoring programs, black males, unapologetically? I am 100%, because I've done the work. I have 65 young males that will stand up and say, Coach Adair, Mr. Coach Adair to some of them, has sit there and mentored and poured into me over a year of his life. See, each group was a year long. Some stayed in 2, 3, 4 years. But I can personally say that with proof. There's people out here that, and I ain't pointing no one out, that come in the tail end of the work without establishing relationships and from the ground up. But I can definitely say I am a leader in that space. I'm sure there's some counterparts. I know Geo Gibbs. I know a few guys that actually put the work in. But I'm proud to say that I stand on those shoulders, and no one can take that from me. I'm a truth teller.
That's amazing. And with thinking about all these things happening, how do you reflect on global leadership in your various roles? From the boards you're on to Alpha League Lyric Theater. How does what's happening around the world inform your leadership?
Well, it is, and I would like more people to understand that your local policies and practices affect you more profoundly and more immediately than the argument going on in the White House or the wars in Israel and so forth. So taking care of home, the city commissions, the mayor, the council members, that is going to be more impactful on your opportunity to where you live, to regulations on where your kids go to school, to access an opportunity to resources, to investments around your community. Something simple as you have neighborhoods where they allow the junkyard to drive their cars through and get these bolts and things that fall off these junkyards, right? Mm-hmm. This is something very simple, but it's big, right? Those bolts fall off these trucks in these streets, those metal pieces. And the people that live in the community don't have a lot of money. A tire is $35. Some people are worried about $25 to pay their water bill. Mm-hmm. They're driving along and they get one of those things in their tire. Now they got to buy a new tire. Now they're worried about not just their tire, but paying for their water bill. How often does a person that lives in Beaumont area has to drive and get a bolt or something in their tire and worry about a tire and $25, or worrying about their and who's getting telling them? First of all, they don't have to deal with that extra $25 or getting a new tire and all that. Mm-hmm. They're living in a more affluent area. So when I say things about your local politics and your local policies and processes, you can affect those things much easier. No matter who's in the White House, they're not affecting those things, the real money, real moments, what house you're living in, who's actually policing you, at the moment. And again, I forgot what your question was, but globally, local to me is much more important. Okay. And when you think globally, that's going to affect us over time, of course, with global warming and I would like to say climate change, seeing how Africa is still being exploited. You're seeing and understanding how the European countries are still benefiting the most from the resources from other countries. You see these unjust right here in our face going on. I mean, how does it truly affect us on a daily basis? We're using those resources here, so we're perpetrating these countries being taken advantage of, these communities being taken advantage of because we want the cell phone, we want the car, we want the access. And so, global does have its effect on us, but we have less control over that as we do here. Everything starts with one step, though. Every movement starts with like a person. 23 people were in the basement in Alabama that started the civil rights movement. 23. And even then, until King was murdered, the movement didn't even really take fire legally, So, but it started with one person preaching in the basement in Alabama. 23 people were there, and they went out and said, "We're going to do the bus boycott." Then that starts, changing the laws in America. But everything starts with one person, or at least one step.
And how does the leadership work you do put Kentucky on the global map? How are you showing the world what Kentucky has to offer?
Well, we lead by example, and I personally now travel working with scholastics on male engagement strategies and implementing MAP programs for different school districts, and the Real Read program, which is Read, Excel, Achieve, Lead. So I go and I speak to school districts on how using literacy through mentoring can increase access and opportunities for our kids, and also include cultural diversity, because all the books that we have chosen look like our kids. So that personally has put me on a personal map of sharing the work I've done with Alpha League and sharing the work I've done with reading programs that are very impactful because of who the reader is. I think I spoke earlier, 92% of our teachers being white, female. Doing these reading programs, you're recruiting diverse populations. You're recruiting granddad, grandmom, black men, black women, Asian men, Indian, Hispanic. You're including them into the educational realm, right? We got schools have kids 7 hours. They're in the community 17 hours. Now you're creating bridges through reading programs. So I have been speaking on that and showing people how it is much easier than it seems. It's you give people a job to do and they will come. You just have to have a framework and say, I just need you for 1 hour a month reading the book and share yourself. Simple things like that. As far as what I'm doing at the Lyric, we're going to be a point of light. People are going to be a destination place because of our museum. It's going to be a semi-immersive experience museum telling the story of Lexington, of Black Lexington, an art gallery that's going to be world class. People are going to want to come here and see and view and learn and experience. And of course, when we have acts like Sugar Hill Gang, Grandmaster Flash Furious 5 that comes to the Lyric and perform, it puts us on the map again. And we've had quite a few. It's a small venue, but we've had quite a few acts come through that people firsthand experiences. We're having Hezekiah Walker, one of the greatest gospel singers out. He's going to be coming for our anniversary event. So we are in touch, and people are learning more and more about the Historic Lyric Theater. And when they come here, it's always an educational experience. You don't leave without learning something. You may be entertained, but there's something that you're going to learn, and we take pride in that as well.
Thank you for sharing that. So much great work you're doing. I just want to say thank you, Christian, for doing this interview. I learned a lot of great information about leadership. I'm sure our listeners will too. And just appreciate you taking the time to be on this episode of Local Global Leaders Podcast.
Thank you again. Thank you for having me. It's an honor just when somebody wants to hear what somebody has to say. It's kind of like, really want to listen to what I got to say? And I say it's not about what you do, it's what you say. But still, the fact that I got to share and have a platform, and I feel heard. And it makes me feel valued, which is what everybody wants. And I know I'm as imperfect and as perfect as everybody else that walks this planet. But I'm still wanting to share what I know. And I appreciate this podcast. I appreciate you pointing out this leadership. Maybe you spark the next person to do something great. So keep up what you're doing. And get some young people in here and put them on the spot about their leadership. But leadership looks different for everyone. And the more we learn about those things, I'm definitely going to start tuning in. I want to hear what your listeners or what your guests are saying and what you're saying, because I feel I can continue to learn.
Okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate hearing that.
Yep.
Thanks, Christian.
That concludes my interview with Christian Adair. To learn more about his work at the Lyric Theater, visit historiclyrictheater.com. And that's theater spelled as in Theatre. The R is first. And the Lyric Theater is located at 300 East 3rd Street in Lexington. I really recommend listeners to go visit if you can. There's a lot of great events happening there, a great place to host events, and a really beautiful art gallery as well. And to learn more about Christian's work with Alpha League, visit alphaleagueinc.com. That is INC.com. My next episode will feature Rob Perez, the founder and co-owner of Deviate Kitchen. That episode will be released during the first week of October. Remember to live local and think global, fellow changemakers. Bye.